Good afternoon and welcome to the studio. Thank you for joining me this afternoon. I thought I'd do a little bit more of this class 66 in Punchcraft, so I thought I might as well show you guys as well at the same time. So I'd done a fair bit yesterday in this area. I think it's time to do lots of black. Which will be quite a lot of the area is going to be dark, very dark. Fortunately, being Punchcraft, I can't get a lot of detail in there. It's just there just isn't the sort of the pixel density available. So, have I got any more brown areas to do? No, probably not. Okay, so I shall change this out to black, and then we shall go from there. In case anybody's not familiar with what I'm doing here, despite the despite the hint that's on the side of the screen. This is called Punchcraft, or punching. It's a craft where you create this image here by using this needle on the opposite side of this workpiece to basically push through loops of thread, and you then get the loops on this side, so you create a three-dimensional picture on this side. It's two-dimensional on the other side. It's very much similar to the way in which some rugs are manufactured. They're also done in the same way. Often the rugs have the loops cut on this side rather than keeping them as loops, but different techniques for different things sometimes. So I have to thread this needle first, and the ball passes down through the centre of the needle but then goes out the side. It is important it goes out the side. Without it, it doesn't really do much. It'll just pull the thread out when I start punching it through. If it goes through the side, then the friction of the material actually holds the loop in place, so it is important it goes through the side. Now then, what I could do with doing is finding a pencil and just working out where the buffers are, because the buffers I want to try and make three-dimensional. So I think we've got a buffer there, and then we've got another one which is sort of in this area here. Yeah, about there. With the ramp there, and you can just see a ramp there, and then what we have now then around here is what's called, I understand, the buffer beam, because that's where the buffers are on. And then we've got an air dam here. So that buffer beam comes out to there. So I'm going to try and use some sculpting techniques with this thread to at least make the buffers stand out before I then move into the rest of the piece. And by sculpting, what I do is I actually change the depth that the needle pushes through the material. I do that because I've got a scale on the side here. Not going to go well, I was going to say not going to go ridiculous. There's 7 steps basically. Normally I'll punch on 3, but I'm using 5 for these. So I shall now try and get the buffers in. Needle doesn't have to look long when I do it on this position. This will create longer loops on the other side. So when I do some of the areas behind, which I'll do on a shorter setting, then these will stand proud and look 3-dimensional. Okay, so that's one. Today I've managed to find myself some little tiny scissors with sharp points that should make it easier to cut the thread off, rather than using the big kitchen scissors I was trying to use before. Now if I was truly doing this sort of 2.5 dimensionally, then I'd be continuously altering this needle length because stuff that's closer towards you looks larger. As you move further away it gets smaller, and if I was trying to create or keep the full dimensionality, I'd be continuously altering this, but that's quite a lot of work and it doesn't actually work so well in this style of work. In Punchcraft, the 3-dimensionality works well just to bring things forward like this. These buffers, even though they wouldn't be a constant size in real life at this angle, they'd actually sort of look to slope away from you. Hopefully when I've completed this it actually looks quite natural. Just because they'll stand forward of the rest of the locomotive. Okay, that'll do. I'll do now is just drop it down 1 unit, and I'll do the 2 pistons, and then when we do the air dam I'll do that at size 3. Right. Just studying my reference photograph, the one that you can see in the bottom left, just to look at the details. Oh, okay. No idea what these things actually look like in real life, so I'm just relying on the photographs I've got here of various versions of this locomotive. Now when I'm doing this, it doesn't actually make any difference whatsoever what direction I do it in, which, you know, I can make little squares, do long rows, do it in any direction I like. It actually makes no difference to the ultimate end piece, because all there is just random, well, just loops on the other side which are effectively in random directions. Bubbles the Monkey, welcome to the studio this afternoon. And how are you enjoying the bank holiday so far? Given that it's probably been a wet and rainy day. Yeah, they don't stand out so well, but there's a bit of dimensionality there with the buffers that stand proud of the air dam that's behind it. I've got a little tiny space in the middle of there that's not got any. Not got much threading, which is about here. So I'll just show some extra loops in. We should fill in the tiny gap. That's it. I've got a couple more down here as well. Okay. Where were they? Just around there. Okay. So with this, if you find you have little tiny spaces in where the loops aren't particularly tight, you can always just go back over some areas like that and add in some extra loops. Tightens up the material around there as well. Well, it should do. Okay. Now I've got all this area to fill in. Mainly I'm going to just cheat, and I'm just going to do it in just a single layer of black, I think. I'm not going to add much detail in. Actually I'll do around the wheel sets first on both ends. because they stand fairly proud as well. And then I'll do the back. I might put some greebles in there, I'm not sure at the moment. And whilst I remember, I want to put a layer or two of black just down here. Yep, so I just separated off wood. It's probably a tank and then something. Another box here with a bit of black. Right, so now somehow I've got to do the axles, which I can't really see. So let's see if my pen, I can draw some space, some stuff in here. Actually, you can see a bit of the wheel there. I might just put a little bit of the wheel in. So I'll fill all this in around here with a layer of black. So the wheel centre's about there. Okay. Okay. That doesn't look too bad. Put a little bit of dimensionality in there, just where the axle is, roughly where the axle is, just so that if you feel across it you can feel it stand out. Right. Ectoplasm, good afternoon, welcome to the studio this afternoon. Were you enjoying the bank holiday? That's just off the back there, okay. We're finally getting some sunshine here today. Been a bit dull and overcast for most of the, well, it's been a lot dull and overcast. It's been raining for most of the day, but brightening up a little now. The only slight problem I find with this particular tool is the release button there is just in the place where you tend to hold the tool, and you occasionally end up pushing it. It can be a little bit irritating at times because I keep doing it. Well, you've been quite lucky then. I think we'd rain yesterday, we've got rain today, although I say it's a bit nicer now than it was. Get rid of that black thread. It's kind of hard to say. I think we'll probably finish the train itself in about another hour, but then the rest of it, even if I just fill it in with block colour, it's going to take a couple of hours for each section at least. So it's a bit of a difficult thing to guess at anyway. I'm afraid it does tend to. Sometimes it surprises you. Some areas go really quick, and other times it takes an absolute age to do what you at first thought would do really quickly. Right. And that's another reel of thread that we've gone through. So let's have a look at that. It's starting to look like something now. There we go. You're looking at that upside down, aren't you? No, you're not. I'm looking at it upside down, you're looking at it the right way up. Okay, now I've got to fill all this lot in around here. Also with black. And I'm just now trying to decide how oh, the camera's upside down again. Okay. I obviously didn't save the settings when I flipped the camera yesterday. Do you prefer it like that, or do you prefer it looking at it upside down, so to speak? Properties. Okay, so currently you've got it in option 1, and that's option 2. So you tell me which you prefer. Option 2, which would be upside down as to you, right side up to me, because you're looking at it from the other side of the desk, or option 1, which is the right side up to you and to me. Okay. So it's the right way, which is this way. Okay. I shall leave it like that then. Now then, more black thread. I've got some here. And I found my threaders yesterday as well. They were exactly where I'd put them. So I don't quite know why I couldn't find them yesterday. But like everything, the gremlins got in and hid whatever it is that you're looking for. Yeah, it's getting dark again. I think we might have a bit more rain. Thank you, thank you. Right. Two. Okay, let's just close that. Yeah, that's right, and put them back again afterwards. I don't quite know what they wanted needle threaders for. Perhaps they're doing some Punchcraft as well. I'm just thinking about putting in some greebles, which in 3D modelling terms are sort of knobbly bits on the outside of things, so that they look like, so they're not smooth and they look like they have a purpose, but you never actually know what that purpose is. I might just do that, just because otherwise this will be rather a great big sort of thick area. So just at random, well, not at random, I'll do sort of where I've got some of these marks. I'll add a little bit of dimensionality in just to make it a little bit more interesting on the other side. Let's put a little bit of something in here. Fiddlestein, wouldn't it be quicker to use a Sharpie to do what? I don't think you get Sharpies that are that thick in the way they paint, to be honest. And even paint sticks don't come out that thick. Ow! So now we just kind of fill this in. In case we've got any new viewers who have come to see what's going on in the studio this afternoon, what you're looking at here, if you hadn't noticed the small info panel on the left hand side of the screen, is a craft called Punchcraft. What it is it uses a needle with thread threaded through it, and what I'm doing with the needle is pushing it through this material. So I'm working from the back, and what I'm doing is creating a loop of thread on the other side, so very much like carpets are made in some respects, or rugs, and those loops on the other side are then forming the actual picture of this locomotive. If you're at all interested in this particular craft, then the tool that you're looking at here, the punch, is one that's made in the UK by a company called Webster's. There are other manufacturers around that do similar tools as well. And the material also is a relatively specialist material, I'm going to say, because I haven't particularly found it available in anywhere other than sort of sourced from the manufacturer. There is something special about the material, shall I say, because it doesn't split when I'm pushing this needle through, and I know I'm actually cutting some of the threads as I do so. I have tried alternative materials which have just ended up in holes. The cotton is just a 2-ply cotton. Nothing specifically fancy about it. It's not a smooth thread. It's quite a fluffy thread. So it's not normal sewing thread, although you can use normal sewing thread as well. You can also use cross stitch thread. Although there are different size needles for using both of those two types of threads. Mainly to do with the hole in the end of the needle, I gather. And you can also make rugs the same way, using a similar but just a larger tool. And that can be quite good fun as well. That uses just normal knitting wool or similar. That's a bit tight, so we'll take a look at what this looks like. Oh yes, it's been raining on and off here all day, Bubbles, as well. I've got a little bit of... Actually, I'm not going to bother about that. I've got a little area in there where I can see white through. And 1 or 2 spaces here, but because I just haven't got this this tool quite as close as I want. I might actually leave them because it just adds a little bit of texture in there. You know, reflection or seeing through the underneath chassis or something like that. So I may well just leave those. And we'll see how it does anyway. Right, so I shall now carry on. I hate wasting threads, so just pulled a bit back. Try and pack these in a little bit closer together. I'm creating these loops the minimum size at the moment, just so that everything else stands proud of them and they kind of look like they're a little bit more sort of underneath the train. Ow. I'm actually just scratching myself with the needle slightly rather than jabbing it, but Fall Guy, good afternoon. Welcome to the studio this afternoon. And what I understand throughout the country is a somewhat rainy afternoon. It's quite warm and dry inside the studio here, although perhaps it's a little bit too warm inside the studio here, but oh, by the way, default guy, if you hadn't noticed, I've paid that invoice. Thank you very much. Yeah, it keeps coming and going. We've had, in about the past 10 minutes, we've had sunshine, then some rain, then sunshine, then some rain. And thank you very much, sir. If anybody wonders what we're talking about, Fall Guy is also a streamer who makes chainmail items, principally jewellery and things like dice bags and things similar. He's also been making some back charms, of which I have just he showed me some pictures last night, and there was no hesitation, no question over it. It was, he's going to have all four. So if you want to link a picture of anything you're doing at the moment, Adi, feel free to do so. And so I recommend you check him out. And of course you will have noticed in there earlier today, Bubbles the Monkey. Bubbles also is a streamer. Bubbles does bead art. So that's the plastic beads that you can then iron to fuse together. She does some amazing work. Just finished, I understand, an R2-D2, which I have yet to see. Hopefully I should see that on Monday's stream. It's weird when I go into the local hobbycraft store around here, because a lot of it is all just about paper card making, and but I keep occasionally wandering around and going, "Oh, that looks interesting. I wonder if I can." And you know, I look at things like the painting pens and the wooden objects for pyrography and things like that, but don't actually buy much from them though. And Ectoplasm, I understand, streams as well, but hasn't done it for a while, and hopefully we'll get back into it, because and my memory's terrible, but if I remember right, the Ectoplasm, you do chainmail as well and some carving, so but If there's anybody else in stream who also does artwork and streaming, please let us know. That's if you wish to, of course. If you're lurking, that's quite alright. You can continue to do so. Oh, yes, of course. Yeah. You know what? My brain's a bit slow because one of the things I quite enjoyed doing was cross stitch with beads. Sort of. So it's sort of like cross stitch, but instead it's the thread, instead of it standing alone, you actually you know, the pixel, if you like, of the cross is actually a little tiny glass bead, and I loved doing those. And yeah, I noticed that Hobbycraft have all the beads laid out, and you can, well, they're not at that size. You know, you buy a pack, you don't buy individual beads, but yeah, I recall seeing them. Give me a second. Okay, I'm going to take a look at that myself. Oh, that's pretty. That's really nice, is that, Adi? That's a beautiful necklace. You do some really lovely jewellery. Oh, maybe you should talk to Bubbles the monkey about getting them sorted out. If I remember correctly, Bubbles and her neighbour love sorting out big tubs of hammer beads into individual colours. I've got a, well, they're not hammer beads, but I've got a set here which I got just recently. But I'm more interested in doing images like this, if you like, rather than stylized characters or something. But I haven't quite got enough space in the studio to do anything of a decent, I was about to say decent size, that's of a large enough size that an image like this would actually be reproduced reasonably. One of these days I think I'll have to try the little tiny mini beads that Bubbles the monkey uses as well, because of course you get 4 of those in roughly the same space as one of the medium sized beads. so the pixel density goes up quite considerably. Yeah, I think there's slight variations in the actual plastic composition, shall we say, which means that they melt at slightly different temperatures, basically, with when you ironing them. Otherwise, Bubbles the Monkey's the expert there, because I understand she mixes all the various ones up just in order to get the colour palette that she's after. You know, whilst you might get red, it's a slightly different red in hammer beads as it is to perler beads, as it is to some other beads. So you get a greater range of colours. Just excuse me a second. My beautiful wife actually wants my bin. There you go. And an empty bottle of water. So if you feel like bringing me a drink up at some point, that would be nice, but if you don't, that's okay. Right. Ow! That time I did stick myself. Didn't actually puncture my skin. Sorry about that if you've got headphones on. I apologise for the sudden rather loud noise. The problem I know I'm going to have with the beads that I've got is really going to be a case of I'm going to spend ages looking for something that's worth doing, rather than just picking something and just doing it. I'll be, oh, I can't do that. It's it's not quite the right image of it. It's not quite big enough, or I just don't quite like it enough, and I'll be putting it off and putting it off, and tend to be like that. I've got some actual when I do airbrushing, for example, I normally do it actually on something like watercolour paper, and I've actually got some canvases as well, but it's kind of like I don't want to spoil the canvas. I've got to find the right thing to do on it, and of course there is kind of no right thing. But it's just just putting the paint to a canvas for the first time is kind of daunting. Let's take a look. I suppose that's one of the advantages really of Minecraft, isn't it, for a lot of arts like this, is with everything being square and blocky, it makes it really easy to do things like that. But that looks quite good. It does, it looks quite good. Right, I need to cut that off. There. There it is. Put a bit of light on the subject. Okay. You've got quite a little industry going there, AD Fall Guy, haven't you? Ah, dear. Just trying to think of a best way to sort of... If you were making kind of lots of Bubbles to Monkey, I'm just wondering if it would be worth... I was just wondering whether it'd be worth sort of creating, you know, taking like a piece of wood and putting a thin strip down the side. A strip of, you know, thin strip of wood that's thinner than the beads at all, along the sides in the square, so that when you put the beads in there, that probably wouldn't work too well though, thinking about it, because of the adhesive backing. Trying to get that in. I was trying to think of something that would hold them in place for you. But that probably wouldn't work too well, because if you start to heat them and flatten them, they're going to squash out over the top of the piece of wood, and that wouldn't be ideal, because you then get a ridge on the side. I suppose the thing to do might well be to just take... I've no experience of doing this, of course. Take a lot more time to heat the beads up before you start applying pressure, so that they're really warm, so as soon as you apply pressure they kind of fuse almost straight away, and don't have time to be pushed to one side or the other out of formation. Oh, that's not bad. It's not bad, 84 full guy. Problem is, things like cubes and boxes always show up things the worst. just because they, you know, the straight edges more than anything. Oh, ooh, orange juice as well. Thank you very much. Yeah, I can just put it down there. I've got orange juice and ice, which is really nice. The thought that just crossed my mind then, Bubbles, was whether something like a paragraphic tip would allow you to almost weld them together, because it, you know, you just heat the particular space where they are. In fact, a further extension to that just crossed my mind is 3D printing what do you call it? Material, rods, spool stuff. You could almost, I'm just wondering if with something like a paragraphic tool, you could almost melt that into the corners and actually weld things together. With actual plastic. I don't know, interesting thing. One of these days I might get a chance to try it, because I have some of that stuff. Night Watch, good afternoon, welcome to the studio today. I trust you are doing well, sir, or madam. Excuse me if I have the gender incorrect. Okay, let's see what this looks like. That doesn't look too bad. It's three-dimensional around here, which is part of what the intention was. That looks quite good. I'm quite pleased with that. There are some light areas around here, but I think I will leave them. At least for the moment anyway. So it looks like you're sort of seeing white patches or perhaps reflections or something in there. Spore. The next thing is a background, so a black, well, not black, something down here and probably a blue sky up there. I don't know to maybe try and put some foliage in, perhaps just around this the two ends and underneath. I could just put green here like grass, so stylized green for grass, blue sky. Could maybe do that blue all the way around and underneath, or maybe a bit of green down here perhaps. Yeah, maybe sort of take the grass to about this level and just have sort of light and dark green here, and then a nice blue sky sort of blue up here. That might do it, I think. I don't think Twitch broadcasts stereo sound. So if it does, I just suppose Twitch is going to be broadcasting whatever I send. I wonder if I am audio. Do you think you're still hearing on the left speaker, Night Watch? I mean, is anybody else hearing the same thing? Because a microphone is normally a mono source, so I would have thought that OBS is actually broadcasting it as a single mono source rather than just a left channel source, which is kind of what tends to happen normally if you feed a single mono audio into a stereo source. You'll normally only get the left channel. I'm not sure that will do anything, and it may well be that I'd have to stop the stream anyway to make that sort of change, but I've just told it to force the signal to mono, but normally as far as I'm aware, what that will do is take a stereo source and merge them. Okay, now it works. It worked properly last time, was it? I haven't changed the audio since last time. Oh, I know. Actually, when were you last here, Night Watch? When were you last listening? Roughly. Because one thing that has changed, OBS hasn't changed as such, but I did change microphone. Now that would be about a week or so ago though, and because I've got a proper studio microphone now as opposed to using a headset, because the headsets, I don't like wearing headsets. That's changed, so it could well be that the old headset was being sent as a stereo source, and okay, if you've heard, well, I'll leave it as it is for the moment, but because I've only got well, normally no, I haven't literally changed it, but at the moment I'll have to read out what I've just done does, but no, it's XLR connectors, so it's not as though it's picky up. So I know it's a single mono source, and XLR connectors, you can't have them not quite in, you know, because yeah, they work or they don't, and from that perspective, or at worst you get a lot of crackling and noise. Maybe I haven't investigated, but I literally haven't changed any of the audio settings after having got the microphone. So if you've heard the new one before, then I've not changed anything since then. Right. One thing I do want to try and do before I just put all these colours away, because most of these colours I've got out I don't need for what I'm going to do now. So I'm just going to try and see if I can get a little bit more definition into the letters. But that requires me then to work out which red I used. I think, was it this one? Yeah, it's that red. So I'll just try and get a little bit more definition. It'd be nice to be able to see the letters a bit better. So what I'll just try and do is just put a few more loops in there. And then I shall get my box of threads out and look for some colours for the background. Don't want an overly complicated background, because of course the main focus is supposed to be the main image in the middle, which is the locomotive. What I'm going is exactly along the line of the threads I've already got in there. Don't particularly want to make it much thicker, but just to add a little bit more bulk in. Okay, let's see if that had any effect. It has, but it's made it a bit thicker. I shall leave that. I don't think I'll add any more to that one. It looks like it's going to get a bit too thick, so we shall not bother. Pull that needle away. So I shall get my box of threads. It's amazing what you find when you're not looking for things. I've just found another box of threads for something else. Tillybug, good afternoon. Welcome to the studio this afternoon. Are you two enjoying the bank holiday interesting weather? Let's start by putting the threads I've got away. And then I can pick some more threads out. I don't keep them sorted in any shape or form because it would be too hard to do, but it also makes it difficult to know what I've got and what I haven't got. Nice, yeah. Right, well, we've got a nice green and a couple of greens that are grassy like. That's probably a bit too pale. I mean, it's probably more realistic grass wise, but let's have something you know, really. That's probably a nice blue for a sky. That's probably a bit dark, I think, so go with a lighter one. I could say you use some baby blue, I guess, but might is that the same? No, it's a lighter one. Might leave that out. Might just do a cloud with that sort of colour rather than making it white. I also may not bother with clouds. What else have I got? I've got a different green in here. Yeah, the weather keeps changing up here, Tilly. One moment it's bright sunshine, the next minute it's raining, and then we're back to sunshine again. No, that's the darker one. That's more or less the same colour as that, actually. Yeah, it's the same-ish colour. It's near enough anyway. So that's about the selection of colours we've got available. Do something that looks like background. A little bit of that dark green left on a spool, so I'll use that spool first. Okie dokie. Now what I've got to do now is to kind of decide how I want to do this. I'm actually thinking about using some dark green around the locomotive itself, sort of like in the background almost. Then maybe an area of lighter green here and above, so the green is like a shadow. Actually, that might be an interesting idea. Use the green like a shadow underneath here, underneath the loco. Use this lighter green sort of above and just at this side of the rails, and then maybe use a couple of areas, just random sort of areas of these two greens here. And then this blue for the sky, I'm wondering whether to do a paler blue first with a darker blue on top. They won't merge too well. Or I could do the whole sky with a darker blue and maybe some clouds. Anybody got any particular thoughts? Of course, if I was going to do the sky blue, what I really should have done is do the windows in that pale blue. But that's a bit late now. I shall think about the blues, but let me do the dark green stuff, and we'll see. I'll do the grassy end first. Oh, I'm definitely doing green. I'm not, but I'm not sure the green sky would look quite good. So good, Bubbles the monkey. Of course, if we're on another planet, well then, you know, the green sky might be perfectly normal. This is where we need 3D, you see, because he's been to the Mun. I don't know whether he's been to any other planets yet. That's a reference to Kerbal Space Program, in case anybody was wondering. Right. Okay, I'm going to make an assumption that we've got a light source somewhere up here, so I'm going to take a shadow for the whole of this area. I think possibly not too much at the back. About there. Yeah, that'll do. Quite awkward just around the frame edge here. Perhaps I ought to put some leaves on the line to explain why the locomotive sat here. Just enough to do that bit there. And now switch to my new full rolls. That's three rolls of colour we've gone through in doing this locomotive. Although most of them weren't full rolls, of course. Just Jessup and Lizard Cell 87. Good evening or good afternoon to both of you. Welcome to the studio this afternoon. Oh, blimey, it's that time already. Time passes really quickly. Sometimes. So we may only have time to do this dark green today. I'm not too bothered about getting a straight edge or anything at this left hand side of what I'm doing at this green area here. It's just like shaded grass, so if it's a little bit rough or not quite a straight edge, that's okay. Sorry, have I heard about the Tesla Power Pack announcement? That's about 5 days old, I think, Lizard Soul, the home power pack. I expected only to be available in America to start with. The guy on charge gives the license for free. Or is this a different thing? They've announced a new type of battery chemistry. Because there's two things. Whilst Tesla have their own battery factory, I think they obviously work on new battery chemistry. But what they've also announced is a charge and inverter system for use in homes, so that you effectively can charge a battery from renewable sources, like local solar or wind sources, or you can buy electricity cheap overnight from renewable companies, delivered over the grid, charge the batteries, and then use those batteries to drive an inverter in your home during the day when in peak hours. Okay, so it could be one or any of those, I guess. Because there were rumours about them possibly announcing new battery technology as well. But yes, just Jessup, if you're particularly annoyed at anybody, you can obviously take out your frustrations in a non-violent manner doing something like this. And what you imagine whilst you're doing it is, of course, entirely up to you. take a look at what the other side looks like so far. Not too bad, not too bad at all. Especially if we do the lighter green around it, then that will then should look like a shadow. The problem is, I think, when it launches, like for most early adopter stuff, it is going to be relatively pricey, and unless you're able to get electricity at a reduced rate to charge the battery, like from a local, if you've got solar panels on your roof, for example, or a wind generator in your garden, then unless you can get electricity at a cheaper source price than you can buy it from the grid, then it's an expensive option because charging batteries isn't very efficient. So economically it only works well for the owner if they can buy the charge current cheaply. Now for the grids and the power operators, then what that allows them to do is this sort of technology allows them to do is to smooth out their peaks in current. So in the UK, for example, there is whenever there's an adverts on ITV, which is one of the broadcast television channels, the actual grid is suddenly called upon to deliver a heck of a lot more current. And if it's a very popular programme like Coronation Street in the UK, or if something like they were broadcasting, I don't know, a royal wedding, for example, and then there's a commercial break in the middle of it, the actual amount of demand on the grid goes through the roof basically, and they have to do things like bring 3 or 4 or more extra power stations online in order to be able to handle the peak load, the peak requirement. And keeping those power stations spinning ready just in case they need the power is extremely expensive. And so technology like this, for example, which would mean that instead of drawing on power from the grid, you drew on it from your own local battery, then that would reduce the amount of load that they want, so that they need to keep stations spinning for. So potentially it does have the advantage to them or to your supplier, maybe to either subsidise it or to give you a good reason to charge your batteries, like the electricity costs less providing you charge them overnight. Yeah, I do you think you've just seen it from the other side, but I'll turn it over in a moment again. Yeah, wait and see what the power companies decide to do. That'll be the that'll be the make or break, unless literally you have your own solar generation capability. Yep, it looks fluffy. It's not quite as soft as it looks because these loops are packed fairly tight together. But that's it still is quite a soft and tactile thing to run your fingers over. Actually, there's one thing about this thread, which if you do it carefully, you can use like a wire brush. So they do a kit actually, the Websters, of a long-haired cat. Once you've done the cat like this, you then take like a small wire brush or a carding brush, and you brush these threads, and they fluff out. and obviously dragging threads and what have you, and the fluff out and it actually starts to look like a long-haired cat. But there we go, that's how it looks. Okay, it looks at the moment. So some of this is three-dimensional. You can see it more in person here. You're not really seeing it very well on the camera, I'm afraid. But it is three-dimensional. You can feel the bumps and you can see them here as well. I guess what I should have done with this green actually is make it a little bit more sculptured, but oh well, first time I've ever done a locomotive. Yes, you can. Just Jessup. Well, I don't know about this size, but certainly you can get. They don't work this way, but you can get square frames. They're generally a plastic frame, and then it's, to all intents and purposes, it's a rubber band. But it's a very big, thick, rope-sized rubber band, which then goes over the outside of it and clamps it down. I don't know about getting them this size. I was kind of looking the other night because, you know, as you probably were thinking about there, it probably would look better in a rectangular or a or possibly a square frame. But this was all I happened to have available, is a round frame. But there again, it still doesn't look too bad in a round frame. I was mentioning it the other day, but on the side here now, by sculpting the edge, you get like a rounded edge. It doesn't just stop and bits start dropping, you know, flopping about like these are here around here. With sculpting the edge, you actually get quite a nice defined edge, and it rounds up really nicely, and it's tactile again. Angelina Jaislin, welcome back to the studio this afternoon, and thank you very much for that. And you too, Tillybug. It's a bit like running your fingers over a carpet in terms of how soft it is. You know, it's the longer the threads, the softer they are, because they move about more than the shorter threads. But yeah, rather like running your fingers over a sculptured carpet. So I shall do some more. Yeah. Sorry, I was concentrating on what I was doing. Just Jessup. Yeah, Tilly's right. Tilly Buggy's right. It's called Punchcraft. I'm not sure it has a fantastically fancy name or anything like that. Certainly, the tools, whether from Webster's who make this particular tool or elsewhere, get called punch tools, and I know Webster's call it Punchcraft, but it's kind of a generic sort of name, really, isn't it? Punchcraft. But yeah, it's coming along nicely. Do some more at this back end, and then do a section underneath, and then that might be all for this particular session. One of the reasons why I like doing this, apart from the fact that just it's a nice sort of art form, is sound again. There's a nice crunch sometimes when you push the needle through the material. Although I guess the best sound actually is no sound at all, because the crunch means you've cut a thread in the material, but it holds together. It's just a nice sort of satisfying sound, and it seems like quite a few of the crafts I like are probably down to the sound. Right, as that's a shadow, I'm treating it like a shadow. I probably want to stop it there on this side. Before I continue, I'm going to have some of my orange juice. Right, so if I've got a shadow, I'm going to have probably something down here. Yeah, where would this light be? If it's coming that way, yeah, it's probably a bit thick, but on that side, a bit too high on that side, but I'm not going to worry about that. So we'll just bring it out. Let me draw it on this side. Where's my pencil gone? There we go. One thing about drawing on this side is it essentially doesn't really show through, so if I do something like that, and then we can do the lighter grass around it. Alright, I'm going to start right against the frame because I know that's the most awkward place to start, to do, and I'd rather start there than end there. Yeah, you made another 4 chance. I've put keyring. Okay, hey look, they sound nice. Yeah, running out of materials, yeah. That's kind of the problem I think I'm going to have with streaming 84 guy, is that I'm going to go through an awful lot of materials. About 2 or 3 times, just Jessup. It's not actually a common occurrence. I did it earlier on stream tonight. I occasionally just catch or graze myself with the edge of the needle, and sometimes I can feel it sort of being close, but I don't often actually literally stab myself with it. It's not really sharp enough to... It is a sharp needle, but it's not actually sharp enough to... I was going to say it's not actually sharp enough to puncture my skin. What I probably mean to say is I've never actually punctured my skin with it. It probably is sharp enough to do it if I pushed hard enough or quick enough. And that wasn't what I intended to do. The design of this tool, the release button for the needle is, you kind of keep catching it if you're not careful. Which can be a little bit irritating. It actually takes quite a bit of concentration to do this. It's very easy to zone out as well while you're doing it and lose sort of a sense of what's going on around you. You don't have to go backwards and forwards in lines like this. You can do anything you like, really. You go round and round in circles, or do any sorts of shapes that you fancy. It's really just a case of filling in the space. I generally just find it easier to go backwards and forwards because of the fact that I'm not moving the piece quite so much and the needle is only moving a slight distance. Yes, I expect to be Tillybug from about 8 PM British summertime, 1900 GMT, or in roughly about 2 hours time from now, which means that as soon as I finish this green section here I will be stopping for the evening, well, for this stream anyway, so that I can get my tea before the stream starts and I don't end up having tea at 10 o'clock at night. Okay, Tillybug, have a good meal and I'll see you later on. And just for some variety, I'm going to go in the opposite direction. There we are. Cut the threads off, by the way, in case anybody wonders, so that they don't get caught in anything and pull the whole thing out, because there's nothing actually holding the pieces in. Okay, well, clearly I haven't done it thick enough. I don't want to have the white showing through there, so we shall see if I can add a bit more in. It's not especially difficult to do. Let me have a look, where is it mainly? Oh, all over. Yeah, seems like a good idea. Actually, I've just been reminded of what the time is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave that until the next time I stream doing this, and we'll put some more green into there to fill in the space, and then do more of the background. So whilst I won't be doing this on the next stream, it'll be carving, which I'm going to do this evening. But if you'd like to come back and see either carving or this when it's next done, if you'll care to push the follow button if you're not already following, then Twitch will let you know when I start streaming. And if you don't trust Twitch to do that, you can also follow me in Twitter. That's Evergon Art, although the details are below the stream window as well. And hopefully then Twitter will let you know when I go live. In the meantime, everybody, thank you very much for watching. It's been great having you around, and I'll hope to see you on the next stream. Cheers.